So what teams do I think will get relegated from the Premier League this season and join our plucky group of Championship clubs for next season? Let's discuss this in today's video. What's up everyone, welcome back to a brand new video on the channel. I'm going to go and dip into a bit of Premier League content today, and it's something I wanted to do a little bit more on this channel, and we're going to talk about the relegation battle in the Premier League. We're going to talk about up to 6 teams that I think can still get relegated. But if you guys really like what you see, if you want to see a part 2 to this video where I talk about who I think could get top 4 in the Premier League, please make sure you do give this video a like. It's tremendously appreciated. If you haven't done, please subscribe to the channel. It would really make my day. If we get to 500 subscribers, I'll release a second channel, Alexa's Shorts channel, and I'll start posting content on that. So if you want to see that, please get this channel to 500 subscribers as soon as you can, and please share my channel to as many people as you can. I've had a really make my day. Without any further ado, let's go on and debate who I think will go down for the Premier League. So to start things off, this is what the current Premier League table looks like, with 3/4 of the season practically done. If you look at the bottom 6 especially, of course we've got Sheffield United rock bottom. I think they're almost destined to go down, even with the appointment of Paul Heckingbottom. It's just not been very encouraging for Sheffield United. I think they will go down. West Brom, I do think they'll also go down. I think the gap between them and Fulham is a bit too much. But then you've got Fulham, who are only 2 points behind Newcastle, although they have played a game more. Newcastle 2 points ahead of Fulham, but they do have a game in hand. And Brighton 4 points above them, and of course Southampton and Burnley only 1 point ahead of Brighton. So these are the cohort of teams I think I'm going to focus on just a little bit in this video. Now if you notice on the points per game, you would notice that there's actually no change in terms of league position with points per game applied, meaning that the current bottom 3, if it goes on points per game and it stays the same, then it will be Sheffield United, West Brom and Fulham who will be making a return to the Championship. But what's interesting is that I want to put expected goals into this calculation as well. If we look at the expected goals, as you can see, we've got an entirely different bottom 3, with West Brom being rock bottom, and we've got Crystal Palace in this bottom 3, surprisingly, but we've got Sheffield United also staying in this bottom 3. As you noted, Burnley are lower than Newcastle, Fulham. Newcastle are 16th place, so not that much higher. But as you notice with Fulham, they are quite substantially higher up the table, in around 11th place. So Fulham have definitely been creating more chances and have been creating a lot more gilt-edge opportunities. So clearly in terms of the way they play football, you would argue that Fulham look better. And look at Brighton, they're even higher up the table. They were definitely in some stage of the season pushing for top 4 of expected goals. They've dropped down a little bit, but similarly with Fulham, Brighton and Fulham are creating plenty of chances. So you would argue with the amount of opportunities both these sides will have, it will benefit both those clubs. But that's not necessarily the case, as you can see from their league position at the moment. So to finally go off with my debate, I'll go through the remaining fixtures than the bottom 6 teams currently have. So obviously with Sheffield United, they are 14 points off Newcastle, meaning that in the next 4 to 5 games, they can get their relegation confirmed. If they were to even win 5 out of their last 9 games, I just don't think it's going to be enough. They've got Leeds away, which is tough, Arsenal at home, Wolves away, but then they've got Brighton at home, which if they do pick up points and pick up form, that could be a huge game for Sheffield United. But then Spurs away, Palace at home will be tough, Everton away, Newcastle away, and Burnley at home. To be honest with you, on paper, they don't have a too bad bunch of fixtures. But do I see this Sheffield United side winning up to 5 to 6 of their last 9 games, a side that's only won 4 games in 29? I just don't see it. I do think Sheffield United will go down. In terms of how many points I think they can pick up, maybe they could sneak 1 more win in there and maybe a couple of draws. I'm going to estimate they'll get 5 points out of those 9 games, which will put them on 19 points, which is really disappointing for Sheffield United following how good they were in the previous season. They're going to have to hope that with their next permanent manager from when they get relegated in the Championship, it's a good appointment and he's got a lot of Championship experience. I have been hearing Jokanovic has been linked recently with a Sheffield United job. I'd be in 2 minds about that. Obviously, renowned of managing Watford and Fulham, and of course getting Fulham promoted. but do I think he will be a right fit? It will be intriguing to say the least. We now turn our attention to West Brom. Likewise with Sheffield United, they've got 9 games left. But if you look at the fixtures they have there, I think they've got quite a fair bit of a tougher running. They've got Chelsea away to play next when they're firing. Southampton could be a big game if West Brom do still have intentions to try and survive in the season. And to be fair, let's say Fulham don't win their next 2 games and West Brom beats Southampton, they'd only be 5 points behind Fulham. So they can probably reignite their chances, actually. Then they've got Villa away, which will be tough. Then Wolves at home, so they've got 2 Midlands rivals back-to-back in their next couple of games. Then followed by Arsenal away, Liverpool at home, West Ham at home, which will be tough. Those 3 following games are really tough for West Brom. And to end it against Leeds, I just think it is a bridge too far. I can definitely see them picking up a couple more wins. I think Sam Allardyce has definitely got them to ship less goals in. But in terms of creating chances, as you saw on the expected goals table just beforehand, West Brom were rock bottom. So they're not creating chances. They've got the less wins out of all the Premier League teams this season with only 3 wins in 29. It's not looking good for me. I do think they will go down. And I've been very let down by West Brom. I've been really excited to see them go back to the Premier League. I do consider them a Premier League side. But they've just not taken the challenge and they've just been a bit fragile. They've just not really been able to press and impose their personality on the game. They've just not really had any sort of confidence. It's been a real shame for West Brom. And if they can keep their players, their squad looks really, really strong. And I'll be interested to see how it performs in the Championship again. And now we have Fulham, a team who have amassed 8 points more than West Brom. And only 2 points that they need to try and get out of the relegation zone. But they only have 8 games left. So they have substantially less games left to save themselves, so consistency is going to be a really big factor to Fulham surviving. They've got Villa away, Wolves at home might be winnable, especially with Wolves, being pretty bang average if I've got to be honest this season. Injuries have not helped Wolves, to be fair, but I think Fulham can take their chances, especially at home. I think Fulham being a lot better. Arsenal away, then Chelsea away will be 2 very, very tough games for Fulham. They'll need to hope that they pick up some form of points against Villa and Wolves. If they go on 4 games with 4 defeats in a row, it won't set them a really good tone for the fact they've only got 4 games left to save themselves. Also with the fact they've got to play Man United away as well. But then they've got Burnley, which is a big game actually. Then Southampton away, another winnable game. And then Newcastle on the final day. So despite playing 3 supposedly really, really tough teams, they've also got to play 3 teams in the bottom 6 of the table. So Fulham have got a real mixed bag, but for me, a real opportunity. And it's going to be within those last 4 games of how Fulham perform, which is going to convince me whether they can survive or not. If they can get a good result against Wolves, I think it'll put them definitely in a reasonable position. They'll likely close the gap on Newcastle. And then when it goes to that final day against Newcastle, if it's still as close as it is, that game on its own will be season defining, which is absolutely crazy for the fact that game could be probably the most important game for both of these sides in their recent history. I do hope Fulham stay up. I've been moderately impressed with Fulham this season. They picked up great results, of course their away victory against Liverpool being one of those results. And I think Scott Parker's really building something there. So I do hope Fulham get a second chance in the Premier League. We now turn our attention to the teams just above the relegation zone, but Newcastle especially I want to turn our attention to. Now Newcastle, in terms of their run of form, 2 wins in 20, which is absolutely shambolic. It actually rivals some forms from the Championship clubs, really. But to have that sort of form in the Premier League is quite astounding. And they'd feel grateful for their great start of the season, that they're not actually in the bottom 3 with having a form like that. And if you look at their final 9 games, not easy. In fact, probably the toughest running in terms of all of the teams in the bottom 4 so far. They've got Spurs to play immediately, Burnley away, which won't be easy, but it might be an important game if they can get a good result. West Ham won't be easy, Liverpool away, Arsenal at home, Leicester away, Man City at home, and then they end with 2 of the bottom 3 of Sheffield United and Fulham. I mean, look at those games from West Ham onwards. West Ham, Liverpool, Arsenal, Leicester, Man City. That by itself is 4 of the top 7 of the Premier League, just like that. And of course Arsenal as well, which won't be easy for them, even for Spurs to be involved in those final 9 games as well. Really, really tough games for Newcastle. I don't see many of those games being entirely winnable. And for me, that game against Fulham could be absolutely massive. If Fulham don't take their chances, especially when they've got to play against Burnley and Southampton, then their final 2 games against Sheffield United and Fulham might be what Newcastle need to try and save themselves. If they can get a good result against Sheffield United, and Fulham have been really strong in their final run of games, they can put them in a great position, and in fact, they'll be the ones with the advantage when they've got to play against Fulham on the final day, and maybe they can hope that Fulham will crumble under pressure. But Newcastle, for those last 2 games, got to give it absolutely everything, especially if they still got a chance of survival. But if I've got to be honest with you, I don't think they will. I do think Fulham might overtake Newcastle. Looking at those final batch of games now, compared to Fulham's games, I do think Newcastle will be the other team that fills into the bottom 3 place. I think we said already, Sheffield United, West Brom are pretty much confirmed to be going down. But I do think between Fulham and Newcastle, it's going to be really, really close. And I do think Newcastle will be the side that will go down. We'll now quickly discuss the teams that I don't think are completely safe yet, but in a reasonable position, Brighton being one of those teams. They've picked up their form recently, and they've actually managed to score a load of goals. That 3-0 victory over Newcastle was absolutely big for them. It really helped them, but it really damned Newcastle, which is why I'm emphasising why I think Newcastle will go down. But if you look at Brighton's final couple of games, not easy to say the least, and they'll be glad that they've got this little bit of a gap now. Man United, Everton, 2 pretty tough games, Chelsea, but then they've got Sheffield United, which is a big game for them. I think win that game, then I think they'd be in the driving seat of survival. Leeds, yeah, that might be winnable. Wolves, yeah, they could get something from that. West Ham would be tough, and then they end on Man City and Arsenal. I think in terms of how many points I think Brighton can pick up, I think if they can just get around 36, I think that would actually be enough. So for that, they would only need 1 win and a draw. So I do think Brighton are in a relatively decent position. It's just really going to depend how these sides are going to maintain their consistency and how much improvement and how much quality they're going to have after they have this rest during the international break. We'll look at Burnley's fixtures right now, and in fact, actually, look at this first game, Southampton-Burnley. They're both joint on points with 33 right now. I think whoever wins this one, they're safe. So for me, one of Southampton and Burnley could save themselves within the first game of the international break, which would be fantastic for them, but it won't be good for the other team. Look at what Burnley have next. Newcastle. They can win that game, then I think they can save themselves, even if they lose to Southampton, which, yeah, will be a close game. But if they lose to Southampton but then beat Newcastle, I think they've done it. I think they've bridged themselves too big of a gap for Newcastle and the likes of Fulham to catch up with them. Man United will be tough, but then they've got Wolves, West Ham, then Fulham, which is a big game. You know, if Burnley are struggling with their form and Fulham are catching up a little bit, that game's going to be key for Burnley if they can get a good result from that. Leeds, you don't know, that'll be a coin flip. But then Liverpool, and they end with Sheffield United. So either way, they actually play the bottom team of the league as their final game. So even if Burnley are still relatively in danger, I do think the fixtures that they have are slightly in their favour, and I think they will be okay. And what I said with Burnley does apply to Southampton as well. If they win their game against Burnley, I think they'll save themselves. If they don't win, they got a really good chance to try and get a win. They play against West Brom. Might be quite tough actually. As I did say, West Brom have been shipping less goals, and it'll be frustrating to play against West Brom and Sam Allardyce, but I do think West Brom have got too much to do to try and survive, so I do think they're already down. But if Southampton can get a good result against the West Brom side that, you know, that may be defeated, then that will be a great result. Palace, yeah, potentially that will be alright. Of course, they're still in the FA Cup as well. Now, is that going to affect their form? We don't know, but of course they've got to play against Leicester in the FA Cup. But then they've actually got to play against Leicester also in the Premier League as well, which will not be easy, obviously. Then they've got Liverpool, Fulham, which will be a big game for both of these sides, Leeds, and then West Ham to end it. Pretty tough, actually, for Southampton. I thought they had a bit more of an easier running, but they don't really. But as I said, I do think they don't need too many points now. I think even just 1 win in those last 9 games, I think they'll save themselves. And I think they've bridged themselves too big of a gap for them to be pulled into it. I know their form pretty much since when they topped the table in the Premier League in November has been atrocious. But despite that, I do think they have done just about enough. I've seen them hand on hand when they had their 1-1 draw against Chelsea, and they were absolutely terrific at restricting our quality, hitting us on the break. Geppetto has been fantastic. And I think likewise with Burnley, I think they've done enough. So that wraps up my Premier League debate on the relegation battles. So going on with the running of the fixtures, the points per game, the expected goals and the form, I think the teams that will go down, I mean Sheffield United, West Brom are confirmed for me. And I think just the other one is going to be a real coin flip. But I do think based on stats and the running, I'm going to say Newcastle will go down with West Brom and Sheffield United. But do you agree with me? Let me know in the comments down below. And let me know if you want to see another sort of debate, if you want me to do the top 4 in the Premier League, if you want to see who I think will be going up from the Championship, who I think will get relegated from the Championship. And do you even want to see something from League One? Who do I think will go up from League One? Let me know in the comments down below as we discuss the excitement of next season. But thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys enjoyed it, please make sure you do give this video a like, tremendously appreciate it. If you haven't done, please subscribe to the channel. And please share my channel to as many people as you can. That would really make my day. But thank you guys so much for watching. You guys are legendary for seeing the end of this video. And as always, take care everyone.